Hello fellow entrepreneurs, welcome to my channel where I read and summarize books relating to being a better entrepreneur. I've met no one who I thought was wise who didn't read. I believe reading is essential for those who seek to rise above the ordinary. So today, we will be learning from Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Intuition. You probably use it far more frequently than you realize. Even if you think you've rationally analyzed a situation and come up with a sound rationale for your decision, you're probably just confirming your gut instinct. Intuition can often lead to better decisions than a careful analysis. This is due to the fact that it eliminates all of the irrelevant data and concentrates only on the most important aspects. However, it is also influenced by a variety of unconscious factors, such as preconceptions and prejudices, which can lead you off track. Making good decisions requires knowing when to trust your intuition and when not to. This video is broken up into 7 parts. Part 1. How the brain makes decisions. Part 2. The unconscious part of the brain. Part 3. The unconscious associations and its impact on our decisions. Part 4. Stress can cause us to make poor decisions. Part 5. Market research isn't always an accurate predictor of actual consumer behavior. Part 6. Go out and try new things to break free from your prejudices. Part 7. Ignore all irrelevant information to avoid making poor snap decisions. Part 1. How the brain makes decisions. In any given situation, the human brain uses one of 2 strategies to make decisions. One approach is to consciously record and process data, weigh the benefits, and draw a rational conclusion about the best course of action. This type of information processing takes a long time, and in some cases, there simply isn't enough time. As a result, a second, much faster strategy has emerged over the course of human evolution. The unconscious makes snap decisions based on gut feelings rather than thorough analysis. The brain can offload some of the strain of its complex thought processes to the unconscious mind using this second decision-making strategy. Unbeknownst to us, beneath the surface, the brain's unconscious part processes situations in the blink of an eye and makes decisions about the best course of action. Many people are hesitant to make decisions based on their feelings or intuition because they only trust their conscious judgments. Snap decisions, on the other hand, are frequently far superior to those made after thorough consideration. Consider tennis experts who can intuitively predict when a player will serve a fault, despite not being able to pinpoint why. And there are art experts who can spot a fake piece of art at first glance, simply because they have an uneasy feeling about it and can only rationalize their decision later. In many situations, the unconscious recognizes patterns and regularities faster than the conscious and logical mind. It is precisely in these situations that we should put our faith in our hasty decisions. In a split second, our unconscious can distinguish between relevant and irrelevant information. Though thoroughness is often a virtue, it rarely makes sense to scrutinize every last piece of available data when making decisions. Concentrating on a few key facts and blocking out the rest is usually more effective. Assume you're watching a couple and want to know whether or not the relationship will last. To do so, focus on a few key indicators. For example, if you notice a hint of disdain or disrespect in their interactions, that's a strong indicator that problems may be on the horizon. However, attempting to analyze every piece of data will make it difficult to make an accurate prediction, because many small pieces of irrelevant data will obscure the few large, relevant ones. If you're too preoccupied with the couple's feet, posture, and chit-chat, you might miss the more important indicators of their situation, such as their contemptuous glances. In many decision-making situations, our unconscious makes a distinction for us. It sifts through the parts of our perception most needed to make an accurate judgment by distinguishing between important and unimportant information. Because our unconscious is so good at filtering information, we can make good snap judgments. Our spontaneous decisions are based on a select few pieces of information, just as relationship researchers know which signals, such as signs of contempt, they must pay attention to in a couple's interactions. We make far more snap decisions than we realize, and we frequently invent rational justifications later. In everyday life, we make snap decisions all the time. When it comes to love, for example, we can tell if we like someone the moment we meet them. Football players, on the other hand, rely on their goal instinct to guide them into scoring positions. Some investors even pay attention to their backaches to determine when it's time to sell their stocks. Part 2. The unconscious part of the brain. Many people, on the other hand, prefer facts and figures to feelings and intuitions, which is why they usually come up with logical justifications for their snap decisions after they've made them. For example, a goalkeeper may attribute his many great saves during a football game to simply being in the right place at the right time, despite the fact that this explanation does not reflect what really went through his mind at the time. His automatic reactions to shots on goal came from his unconscious. Similarly, our conscious justifications for our ideal romantic partner have little bearing on who we actually like. We can go on and on about the most important characteristics our future partner should possess, but we don't go through the list when we meet someone. Instead, we just have an intuitive sense of whether or not we like them. And, more often than not, our gut instinct contradicts the rationally compiled list of desirable qualities we had previously. Part 3. The unconscious associations and its impact on our decisions. The unconscious has a strong influence on our actions. In one study, participants were asked to play Trivial Pursuit, but first they were divided into two groups and given a task. One group was asked to consider what it would be like to be a professor, while the other considered what it would be like to be a football hooligan. As a result, the performance of the two groups differed. The group that had considered the intelligent professor got more correct answers than the group that had considered the dumb football hooligan. The players' performance had been influenced by their affiliations. Similarly, our unconscious associations have a constant impact on our actions. For example, most of us have learned to associate words like white, male, and tall with qualities like power and competence without even realizing it. Even if we don't believe tall white men are more competent than short black women, many of us unconsciously form these associations. Studies have shown that being a tall white male makes it easier to succeed professionally. It's even been proven that a 1-inch increase in height results in a measurable increase in salary, and top management positions are almost exclusively held by white men of above average height. Warren Harding's case demonstrates how equating general external characteristics with specific skills can be disastrous. After World War I, Harding was elected President of the United States because his supporters simply thought he looked presidential. He lacked any real abilities or merits, and he is widely regarded as one of the worst presidents of all time. Part 4. Stress can cause us to make poor decisions. Would it surprise you to learn that you have telepathic abilities? In fact, we can all read each other's thoughts. All we have to do is look at someone's face to see what they're thinking. Emotional expressions reveal everything. Scientists have demonstrated that emotional expressions are a worldwide phenomenon. A happy, angry, or sad facial expression can be recognized by anyone in any part of the world. In fact, stressful situations and time pressure can make even non-autistic people temporarily autistic. When we are stressed, we tend to ignore many indirect signals such as facial expressions and enter tunnel vision, focusing all of our attention on the most immediate threat, which is the most relevant piece of information. Tunnel vision, for example, can lead to police officers shooting unarmed people because they are so focused on the potential threat of a weapon that even a black wallet can appear dangerous. You must slow down and reduce the stress in your environment if you want to avoid this type of autistic seizure. You're more likely to become temporarily autistic if you're under a lot of stress. Beyond a certain point of stress, the logical thought process ceases entirely, and people become extremely unpredictable. Part 5. Market research isn't always an accurate predictor of actual consumer behavior. A market researcher's job is to figure out which products will sell well and which will not. Despite this, researchers frequently fail to forecast consumer behavior. For example, Coca-Cola conducted a series of taste tests several decades ago and was forced to conclude that its competitor, Pepsi, scored significantly higher than Coke. As a result, the company changed its recipe and released a new type of Coke, appropriately dubbed New Coke, on the market. It passed all taste tests with flying colors, indicating that it would be a huge hit. What's the end result? New Coke was one of the most infamous product failures in history, and it was eventually taken off the market. What could have caused the taste test to be so off? They were simply carried out in the wrong way. Taste testers were required to rate the products based on a single sip, with all recognizable brand elements, such as the color of the can, hidden. Have you ever had cola like this before? Because of the unrealistic circumstances, the appraisal had no bearing on the customer's subsequent purchasing behavior. The taste testers needed the right environment to make a truly representative snap judgment. They should have been nursing the can at home on their couch. Finally, consumers in general tend to rate particularly innovative products negatively in initial tests, which is something to keep in mind when conducting market research. Consumers simply need to become accustomed to new and unfamiliar products before they begin to enjoy them. Part 6. Go out and try new things to break free from your prejudices. Would you say that racial prejudices still exist today? Psychologists have demonstrated that racial prejudices are deeply rooted in people using simple association tests. It has been demonstrated, for example, that many Americans have a harder time associating positive qualities with the word black than with the word white. Surprisingly, this unconscious prejudice has been discovered among the black population. This phenomenon is linked to the fact that the unconscious learns through observation, according to experts. Because the ruling class in the United States is almost entirely made up of white people today, citizens in the United States have developed an unconscious association between white skin and positive attributes such as power. The most concerning aspect of all of this is that prejudices do have an impact on our everyday behavior. Skin color, gender, and height all influence how others perceive a person, such as during a job interview. If you don't want to become a victim of prejudice, you must seek out new ways to alter your unconscious attitudes, and the only way to do so is to meet new people and try new things. One student, for example, was able to temporarily suspend his prejudices against black people by watching track and field events in which the US team was almost entirely made up of black athletes during another psychological association test. The fact that he was rooting for his team lessened the impact of the athlete's skin color on him. Part 7. Ignore all irrelevant information to avoid making poor snap decisions. You've already seen how unconscious prejudices and stereotypes can sway your decisions. You must consciously shield yourself from potentially misleading information if you want to avoid this. For many years, the popular belief in the music industry was that only men could be professional musicians, such as violinists or bassists. Women were not considered viable candidates for the job, regardless of their abilities. Simply put, they were victims of prejudice and stereotyping. To address this issue, the music industry began using screens during auditions to conceal the gender of the musicians, allowing them to be judged solely on their performance. Today, there are many exceptionally talented female musicians and orchestras all over the world as a result of this innovation. As this example demonstrates, avoiding our unconscious snap judgments can sometimes be as simple as ignoring irrelevant information. In the blink of an eye, the human brain can make snap decisions. These snap judgments are far superior to conscious analysis in some situations, but they can also lead to poor decisions and unfair assessments of others. So make sure you get feedback under realistic conditions if you're launching a new product. If your company or employer is planning to launch a new product and wants to conduct market research ahead of time, make sure you replicate the same conditions and context as when your customers would actually use it. Otherwise, your responses will be completely untrustworthy. This wraps up the summary from the book, Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking, by Malcolm Gladwell. Thank you for sticking out through the very end of this video. Nothing helps out my channel more than y'all watching the entire video. These videos take a long time to make and is a labor of love. If you would like to contribute by buying me a cup of coffee, I'll leave the link below along with the link to this book. And as always, if you like this video, please like and subscribe and watch these videos that might pique your interest. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, keep reading.